Welcome back to Hannity. Now, earlier tonight, we showed you how President Obama completely avoided a question on whether he or anyone in the White House knew about the IRS targeting of conservatives before last Friday. And that's just the latest piece of evidence that is pointing to the possibility of the White House involvement in the scandal. Now, earlier this week, a veteran political analyst said that he thought that the White House might have even authorized the tax agency's actions. Listen to this.
I will tell you this on the IRS front. I've worked in this town for over 20 years. I worked in a White House and on Capitol Hill, and I can say with a very strong sense of certainty that there are people very close to this president that not only knew what the IRS were doing, but authorized it. It simply just does not happen at an agency level like that, an initiative like that, without political advisors, likely in the West Wing, certainly connected to the president's ongoing campaign organization, that didn't know about it.
Pretty harsh, and that's not all, because on Tuesday of this week, Press Secretary Jay Carney also left the door open to the possibility of the White House being involved. Listen to Jay.
You just said categorically that you could say no one from the White House or in the president's political team was involved. There's a pretty unequivocal answer on your part. And yet the bulk of this press conference is you saying you don't have all the facts. It's a wait-and-see approach.
That's a fair point. What I can tell you is that...
What gives you that confidence?
I have no reason to believe.
So you're doing that on good faith, or this is just your assumption?
Because I can tell you that I am not aware of anyone here knowing about it. It would be obviously...
So it's down to your direct knowledge of being aware of anyone here?
Yeah, Hans, you can ask me if, somebody who works on...
You've asserted something categorically, and I'm trying to understand how you know that.
I am certainly not aware of and am confident that no one here was involved in this.
Stylistic differences. Here with reaction, radio talk show host Dana Loesch and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Jay Carney, Dan, has been having a pretty rough time of it of late, but he really did. I thought that reported by saying, well, hey, hang on a second. You say you don't have all the facts, and you say that you know for sure that that didn't happen. That was a good question.
Yeah, it was a really good question, and I don't think that Jay Carney's dancing was enough to deflect or get him out of hot water. I mean, the point being, I don't understand how people cannot be aware, especially up at the higher up. I mean, you have to think about this. Doug Shulman testified before 2 different House committees saying when he was pointedly asked whether or not his agency was targeting Tea Partiers, was targeting pro-Israel and Jewish groups, was targeting pro-life groups, and he adamantly denied it, not once but twice. And think about this. This happened a year after Loesch and other managers, including their chief counsel over at the IRS, had several different meetings where they discussed how, in fact, their agency was pointedly targeting Tea Partiers and pro-life groups and pro-Israel groups. So they were aware of this. But the question then becomes, okay, well, then why did they ignore it? Maybe it's because they wanted to wait for the story to come out after the election. Yeah,
I think that's probably a good point because it was a long time before. Leslie Marshall, we know that Representative Dave Camp of the House Ways and Means Committee, he's saying that Doug Shulman and others, who was the former commissioner of the IRS, that they lied before Congress. Now, we're going to begin some hearings tomorrow with his successor. What are your thoughts as a liberal?
Well, first of all, Doug Shulman was not a liberal president. As you know, George W. Bush appointed Shulman, and we have already seen 2 heads roll, the number 1 and number 2 at the IRS currently. So do I think that Shulman should be brought and that should be brought up? Absolutely. We have said on the left and the right as Americans that we don't want anyone targeted, and I say that as a liberal. But you know what, Sean? I also don't want any tax-exempt status given to groups on either side when they're not following the law. If they're political in nature, they're not following the law.
Let's stay focused here if we can. Dana?
Yeah, Steve Miller, first of all, that was a Victorian freak show, that firing. Steve Miller was the acting commissioner. He wasn't even there when all of this took place anyway. And he was leaving in 3 weeks. He was already leaving. So that wasn't any loss. That wasn't any skin off of anyone's back. We need to hear from Doug Shulman, and there needs to be more heads roll. And I'm talking about people who are actually there at the IRS.
Hey, Dana,
so, Sean,
let me
you
ask
may
you
know this already.
Dana,
yes.
let me jump in and ask you this. This, I think, is important. We know that members of the Senate, members of the House, Democrats, they were asking for these groups to be targeted. They were requesting they get the added scrutiny, and it then happened.
Yeah, there were, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There are a number of Democrats who have letters back and forth with the IRS and with the commissioner and with different managers within the IRS who are specifically asking for this increased scrutiny. And then to top it all off, you have Sarah Hall Ingram, who is the commissioner of that particular department of the tax-exempt organization within the IRS. And now where is she? She's heading up the Obamacare division within the IRS, the same woman who was in charge of the department targeting Tea Partiers and all other conservative groups. She's still there. In fact, she was promoted. Now, how does that happen?
Yeah, you know, Leslie, I just think it would be honest of those of you on the left to say this for the sake of every American. You know, we now reach a level of soft tyranny here if we're targeting people, intimidating people, based solely on either their opposition to the government or their particular point of view. I think there has not been enough outspokenness by people on your side. Why not?
Well, Sean, other than you, who does give me the opportunity, come on, I disagree. I mean, the President of the United States is our Commander-in-Chief, and he's a Democratic president, has spoken out against this, as have Barbara Boxer, Nancy Pelosi, Leslie Marshall,
well, what is it, George Bush's fault,
numerous people on the left.
This happened on his watch, and people knew about it 2 years ago.
I want to say something to Dana. Dana, you know I like you, okay? But I'm going to buy you a surfboard because you're riding a wave of conspiracy to connect to the president, a grassy knoll with appointees being pushed around. It is not. There is no fact.
How is it a conspiracy theory that this took place under Doug Shulman's watch? How is it a conspiracy theory?
Where is the fact?
How is that a conspiracy theory?
Where is the fact that the President of the United States? Where is the fact that the President of the United States?
Getting the full story.
And you said not enough heads rolled, and we have been less than a week away.
Leslie,
I agree with you on
Hang on a second. Let Dana answer. Answer.
Yes.
Dana,
it's not a conspiracy theory. These are facts. There are documents on. We know that the meetings happened. We know that people all the way up top at the IRS knew. So and we already know, look, we already have one story that was suppressed on Yemen with the Associated Press. Who's to say this didn't happen to keep this story out of the election either?
Where is the story that has the president quoted as ordering the IRS to do this?
Why is Sarah Hall Ingram still employed? Why does Sarah Hall Ingram still have a job as of today? That's the question.
Perhaps because it's been less than a week. Perhaps because it's been less than a week.
You know what?
And we have
That's
two
too
people
long.
fired,
It's a week too
and
long,
I still don't hear. I'm still not hearing, Dana, any proof.
It's a conspiracy theory to brush
that the President of the United States asked for this to be done.
Because you're not paying attention, Leslie. You're not paying attention.
I didn't, because you didn't answer it, Dana.
Thank you both.
Oh, I did answer it. You didn't like my answer.